Dear viewers, welcome, good evening, welcome to Afterthoughts. I'm Shateel Bin Salah with you. Today we have with us eminent human rights activist Dr. Sultana Kamal. Welcome to our show.
Thank you very much.
So in Afterthoughts, every week, every Sunday, we discuss about the current political and current affairs of the country. So election is coming by, it is just knocking our door, and everybody's looking forward to how to practice their voter rights. So we thought today, instead of discussing about the caretaker government, let us look back and see how we have fared as a nation on the ground of human rights.
Okay.
In 2009, the year the government came to power, we have the United Nations Periodic Review took place in Geneva in 2009. And this year, on October 20th, the next session is due. So I believe that a lot of issues were raised that time. A lot of issues had to be addressed. So what is your idea, or what is your comment on how we have fared in these 4.5 years?
Well, the second periodic review actually already has happened. Okay, in May.
In May, yeah,
yes.
It was in May.
So in September, actually, the government is going to respond
to the period,
to the observations, comments, recommendations it received from the other member states. So this is a time when government has to really finalize its pledges for the next 4 years, because the UPR happens every 4 years. So they have to really tell other member states who are their peer countries that what are they going to do on particular issues. So last time in May, when there was the UPR review session, the basic or the primary UPR review session, there have been almost 100 recommendations by
yes,
about 100 countries. Okay, and some countries actually repeated the recommendations in the sense that they followed the recommendations of the other countries, but there were also some recommendations that were quite unique by some other member states. So, and those recommendations were taken by the government in 3 categories. That some recommendations they responded that we have already done something about it, probably we have not reached the standard or the desired level, that is a different thing, but then there are visible and also very clear efforts made by the government to reach the desired goal. And there are certain recommendations the government said that we are going to kind of consider those recommendations because we have certain hindrances to really go about it or do anything concrete right now. And there are other recommendations the government said that they are not going to consider those, basically in the name of culture or religion or some very local reasons. So there are 3 different categories that the government actually divides or kind of classifies those recommendations.
And we have seen that in that report that all the countries have raved Bangladesh about their improvement in maternal health, neonatal health, and also education, poverty alleviation. But there are also other things that were not appreciated, or the other countries suggested that there is scope of improvement.
Sure. If we kind of try to look at the issues of human rights in 2 different classes, one class is the economic, social and cultural rights, okay, and the other one is civil and political rights. So Bangladesh definitely has done quite a lot to be appreciated in the area of economic, social and cultural rights. The rights you have just mentioned, in the area of education, in the area of health, in the area of food autarky, attaining food autarky or poverty alleviation, and also the economic status of the ordinary people has improved, no doubt about that. And the GDP, if we notice that has stayed at a very steady level. So those areas were very much appreciated by the other countries, saying that Bangladesh, despite all the political turmoils it has to go through, many different hindrances that it has to face, a country of a huge population with very limited resources, but then government definitely has shown very good result in those areas, in certain areas Bangladesh has already reached the MDG goal, which is supposed to be reached in 2015. But there are certain questions that still concerns the member states and also us as human rights activists are in the area of civil and political rights. We can name at least two areas: extrajudicial killing and also that enforced disappearance. Okay, but for extrajudicial killing, the Bangladesh government's response was that they take immediate action as soon as they come to know about any extrajudicial killing, and they have already punished more than 1,000 members of the law enforcing agencies, which we think is actually doesn't give us the whole truth, because we have many incidences and events of extrajudicial killing where nothing has been done by the government. The government has totally denied that there has been any.
And also the numbers that are in the report are much higher than what the government stated.
Yes, the government actually doesn't want to admit that that many people have been killed by extrajudicial means. And for enforced disappearance, the government said that they don't even have the enforced disappearance term in their dictionary. They wanted to say that maybe these are abductions and done by probably personal enemies or family enemies, family foes, but they don't want to admit that these were actually done by the law enforcing agencies of the country or the state agencies. So there was a big difference of opinion between the government and the human rights activists on that particular issue. And there are other issues which we can say that the LGBT rights and the death penalty. The government was consistently suggested or advised to abolish death penalty, because that goes directly against the principles of human rights, because we believe that right to life is absolute. And the government said that considering the gravity of crimes, the number of people that have to suffer for certain crimes, the government is not ready to consider abolishment of death penalty right now. And for LGBT rights, the government replied in a very, I would say, diplomatic way, saying that the government is committed to see that no particular group is discriminated against for any reason whatsoever.
Let's discuss death penalty first. In a country where we have seen in recent times a tremendous public support in favor of death penalty to punish or bring justice to war criminals or for war crimes trial, there have been public uproar and the youth have participated spontaneously. They wanted death penalty. So, but from a human rights perspective, death penalty is not desirable. So where do you think is the gap lies and how we can bridge the gap?
Well, we have to probably look at the history of the whole human rights culture in this country. We have been watching kind of, unacceptable impunity to act of crimes in this country. Anybody who has power, anybody who is linked to any kind of power in this society, economic, social, cultural, or whatever, they actually enjoy certain kind of impunity even after having committed serious, heinous crimes. So this probably popular support for death penalty comes from a sense of deprivation in the area of justice. People feel that justice has not been done to many areas in Bangladesh, and particularly related to the war crimes of 1971, because 42 years have passed, but then even now we are not in a position to say that yes, we have punished at least one war criminal or criminal who has committed crime against humanity in 1971. But then these people actually are guilty of a genocide, of having assisted in killing of 3 million people and torturing women, and we are direct sufferers of that, direct victims of that crime. But then we had to wait 42 years or at least 40 years to see that these people are brought to justice.
But again, our governments...
I'm coming to that, yes. And the government also kind of justifies the existence or keeping death penalty as the ultimate penalty or ultimate punishment in this country, showing examples from other South Asian or other countries where death penalty is a penalty, is very much an accepted penalty. But as human rights activists, as I said earlier also, that we believe right to life is absolute, and the state also should not be given the right to take away anybody's life. Okay, but then we also as human rights activists here want to make this very clear to our viewers that we want the war criminals of 1971 or the people who have committed crimes against humanity in 1971 to get the ultimate penalty of the country.
Not necessarily
but
death.
Not necessarily death penalty. So it actually requires the government to amend the law and to really say that it is either life imprisonment or
establish some other form of punishment as the ultimate penalty.
The ultimate. But then we do believe and we do want these people and want to see that these people have been given the ultimate penalty of the country. We don't want any compromise there.
Thank you. Viewers, we'll take a break now. We'll be coming back soon. Stay with us. Viewers, welcome back to Afterthoughts. We are speaking to Advocate Sultana Kamal. Ma'am, as we were saying that though from the human rights perspective, we want to repeal death sentence as capital punishment, but the government is against it. So what are the reasons?
Well, one of the reasons they show is that it's the public sentiment of the people, that those who are victims of this kind of crimes or sufferers, the surviving family members, they want, we constantly see when a criminal or an accused, when tried, proved guilty, is given anything less than death penalty, the family members always say that we have not got justice. But the minute they are given death penalty, the survivor family members will always say that, okay, now we are happy, we are satisfied because they have actually got the right penalty, the appropriate penalty. So government always tells us that this is the public sentiment, and also I think it is also a reflection of the people's lack of faith in the justice system.
Implementation, enactment of law.
Implementation, basically, that probably if they are given anything less than death penalty, these people will come out of jail at some point of time because they can actually play games to really get themselves released. And then there is a fear of retaliation.
We can only hope that gradually our law enforcement system and implementation will be strong, robust enough.
When people feel confident about the legal administration, justice administration, and also the state's capacity to really ensure absolutely that people are getting justice in this country, then only probably people will start thinking that, okay, death penalty is not the only desired penalty for anybody. There can be other punishments also.
Apart from death penalty, the other issue that the government did not give a very clear statement about agreeing, which is the LGBT rights.
Well, they were very clear in saying that the government will see to it that no one is discriminated against because of any kind of identity they hold for themselves. And they definitely meant the sexual identity also. But on the other hand, so far the government has not agreed to decriminalize Section 377 of our criminal procedure.
Could you please tell us more about, how does Section 377 goes against the favor of a recognition of LGBT group?
Well, Section 377 does not permit or legally prohibits same-sex activities. So that is how it goes against the LGBT groups.
So government in one side, if I may quote our Foreign Minister Dr. Dipu Moni, that on LGBT we concur with NHRC on law of land. However, we recognize the need for protecting more vulnerable groups of our population, given the constitutional rights and freedoms.
Hmm.
So is here she is referring to the other
They
vulnerable
concur
groups.
with NHRC, saying that the NHRC also does not propagate or does not recommend decriminalization of 377, and also constitutionally same-sex activities are prohibited in our country. So she, on the one hand, goes by the directives of the Constitution and along with the NHRC opinion. On the other hand, as government representative, says that yes, constitutionally also the government is bound to protect the interests of the vulnerable groups. So it's kind of a it's a statement which is quite self-contradicting in many
and
ways.
can be interpreted in many ways,
many different ways.
on
right.
many people's favor.
Right.
So we can only hope that in future it will be more aligned and towards more constructive.
I hope they will be clearer on this or more transparent on this.
Because it is
yes.
And we have this a campaign is going on. The 23 eminent personalities of Bangladesh, they have started this campaign, Rukhe Darao Bangladesh, or Bangladesh Stand Up, Bangladesh Rukhe Darao, Stand Up to Resist. And ma'am, we know that you're a member of that part of that movement.
So very briefly, we have 5 points to make here. One is that we want that the war criminals of 71 are tried, and it is tried in proper way, in time. Secondly, we want ban of Jamaat Shibir's politics, because that was directly against our ideals of liberation war in 1971. We want to see that this country is free of communalism, and then we also want to see that the government makes all the efforts and ensures space for freedom of thought, and takes the country along with the ideals of the liberation war. And finally, we also said that we have to resist the process of Talibanization of this country and protect women's rights. So these are the 5 points we are actually making through this campaign, and we already held several meetings also in divisional districts, and we are planning to hold a huge national convention on the 5th of October in Sarwardi Uddan. We have already applied for permission to use that field, so that where we hope to get thousands of people coming and actually resonating this particular slogan, that we want to see Bangladesh proceeds, or Bangladesh progresses, goes forward along the ideals of the liberation war.
We all look forward to that, and we hope Rukhe Darao Bangladesh, all the best, and we all are with it, we all are part of it. With that, madam, this is the end of our show. Thanks a lot for coming to our show, and we hope to have you more in days to come. Viewers, you're listening to the Advocate Sultana Kamal. This is the end of our show. Please tune in next week, same time. Till then, good evening.